If you want to publish a book, there are lots of things that you're going to need to do, but the very first thing that you should do is to determine which method of publishing that you are going to use. Why? Because each method offers a variety of pros and cons. Now, let me pause here to say that if you are an aspiring author or an established one who is looking to improve your craft, be sure to hit that subscribe button below. All right, so how many types of publishing are there? What are those methods? Well, there are three. There's traditional publishing, there's hybrid publishing, and there's self-publishing. And my guess is that you have an idea of which method you would prefer to use, but until you really research and compare the three methods, you won't know which is best for your book. So let's discuss the major differences between the three types of publishing, and we'll start with traditional publishing. Now, first, as I'm sure that most of you are aware, it is very competitive. It is fiercely competitive, right? According to wordsrated.com, a publishing house of a medium or large size will often receive more than 5,000 unrequested manuscripts annually, right? So people submitting unsolicited manuscripts. So that's 5,000 to just one medium to large size publisher. So that's why a lot of publishers don't accept unsolicited manuscripts. So majority of people who send them unsolicited, those are never even looked at, right? So to really work with a traditional publisher, you need a literary agent, okay? That also means that you need a book proposal. So whenever you heard that the first thing you need to do is determine the method of publishing, I'm guessing that some of you were like, no, that's wrong. You have to write your manuscript first. But that's not always the case, especially when you're talking about traditional publishing, because when you're looking at nonfiction, which I believe comprises about 88% of the market, are nonfiction books. And most nonfiction books, the publishers don't want the whole manuscript. They want to look at the book proposal first, which includes an outline and some sample chapters, but not the whole manuscript, right? So knowing that can save you a lot of time and effort before pitching to a literary agent who will in turn pitch to the publisher on your behalf. So if you want to work with a traditional publisher, you also need to have an existing large and engaged audience. So it used to be you just had to have a large audience, a large following, a large what they call author platform. But that's no longer enough. You need a large and engaged audience. Okay, what do I mean by engaged? So rather than them just liking your posts on social media, are they making comments under your post? Are they making comments to your videos? Are they responding to your emails? Are they clicking on the links in your emails, right? Are they buying other things from you? These are all really critical components that a publisher is going to look at before signing on a new author. Going with a traditional publisher also means, and this is a big one too, that they own your copyright, right? They own the material. You are signing over your manuscript, your thoughts, your story to them, okay? And they have the copyright ownership. Now, yes, after a certain number of years, a lot of times you can buy back your material, buy back the copyright, but just know up front that you are trading, the ability to be called a traditionally published author for them owning your material. So just know that, okay? Now, a lot of people are all excited about getting traditionally published because they pay the upfront costs for editing and design, right? But when you look at the bigger picture, you realize that they aren't actually paying for your design and your editing, because whenever you get royalties, the sales from each, a percentage of sales from each book sold, right? Authors don't get royalties until the publishing company, the traditional publisher, has recouped their initial investment in the editing and design of your book. So technically, you're still paying for it, right? It's just delayed, okay? In addition to them paying upfront publishing costs and then giving you a percentage of sales called royalties, you sometimes get an advance Now, this used to be standard, but it's going by the wayside quickly, especially for new unknown authors. There are lots of times that they're signing on now without any advances. So just be aware of that, okay? Let's move on to hybrid publishers. So they are also competitive because they're much smaller than traditional publishers typically. And so they can only publish so many books a month, so many books a year, right? So it's limited. There's competition in that regard. Also, you pay them to do the work. So they'll find the designer, they'll find the editor. A lot of times they have a stable of them in-house with them or, have contracts with them. So that's not an issue on their end. They have these already vetted and ready to go, but you are paying them for that service, right? They also typically get a percentage of sales. Not always, but most of them do. Sometimes they own the copyright to the material. Again, not always, but sometimes. And, a lot of times back in the past, especially in the wild, wild west of self-publishing, when these hybrid publishers or boutique publishers, vanity publishers was what they were called too, a lot of different names, and a lot of shady practices were made. Now, a lot of them have really cleaned up their act. There are a lot of good actors out there now, a lot of great companies. So, but it's still important for you to do your research and always, always, always read every single word of the contract. And if you don't understand anything in the contract, and if they are unable to satisfactorily explain it to you, make sure that you get an intellectual property attorney to review that contract. It's going to be well worth that whatever that attorney charges for an hour to review that document, rather than losing lots more money down the road if the contract is not in your favor. Okay. So that brings us to the third method of publishing, which is self-publishing. So, yes, it requires that you do all the work, find all of your printing partners, such as editors and designers and all of that. And it is a learning curve, but that's why I'm here, right? To help you simplify the process, guide you along the path. That's why I want you to subscribe to this channel so that you can, shorten that learning curve and be aware of what's coming, what you need to do, all that kind of stuff, right? So you do have to put on the work with self-publishing. And yes, it does require you to pay up front for all those services, editing, book design, your own marketing efforts, all of that. But that can be offset too by crowdfunding through sites like Kickstarter, right? So there are options available to you. The good news about self-publishing is that you own the copyright, right? So that's fantastic. You also receive most of the profits, more than you would if you were traditionally publishing. There's no middleman like a literary agent that also gets a percentage of sales, all that kind of stuff. But of course, the print-on-demand company that you use, whether it's Amazon KDP, Ingram Spark, Drafted Digital, whoever you use, Lulu, BookBaby, they all get a percentage, right? Because they are providing you a service, so they do get a percentage of book sales, but you as the author get the majority of sales. Also, a lot of authors, especially first-time authors, don't understand the value of this point. But with self-publishing, you have access to all of your sales data, right? You can successfully tweak your marketing efforts based on what you're seeing in the sales department, on your sales pages. So whenever you traditionally publish, they know how many which bookstores are buying how many books and which ads are working on which platforms. Like they know all that and they don't share it with authors. Whereas if you are self-published and you're doing it yourself, you obviously know what's happening with your book and how to improve your marketing efforts based on that. Okay, so there's a lot more that I could share with you. I could talk all day about publishing a book, but it all comes down to three things. Okay. Comes down to time versus money versus ownership. Okay, which is most important to you? So, to help you make that decision, I created a free guide called Your Path to Publishing. And it includes worksheets to help you analyze your goals. And it also offers a detailed comparison chart of the three types of publishing, the three methods, so that you can determine which one is best for you, your book, and your bottom line. Okay, so be sure to click the description below. There's a link right there that you can download your free guide. Okay. Also, hit that subscribe bell if you haven't already, and be sure to check out my other videos. In the meantime, don't forget, don't just write a book, make an impact.